The final battle took the longest to complete by far as it split into 5 different parts from 2 different locations, cutting back and forth. The 2 groups they split into were changed around a lot in the making of the final battle. The final battle is also the sequence that went through the most changes by far, from settings to story beats to action beats, etc. This is because the third act is the pinnacle of the story, where all the themes and character arcs come to the forefront, where you have to do your best to make sure they're all concluded in the best way. For the little that we see the plumber's base, it was one of the hardest locations to design and create due to its sheer size and complexity. I even had the CG artist for the movie to create the entire scene at some point to take the load off, which ultimately didn't happen, but luckily we don't spend too much time in this location. We get a cameo from Patelade, which was nice, but now the movie reveals the prototype Omnitrix having been stored in the plumber's base since the incident, which was elaborated more in a deleted scene. We see through the subtle visual that Ben's Omnitrix actually acts as a stabilizer for the prototype. Despite the fact that Ben eventually figures out Vilgax's plan, this fully displays Vilgax's intelligence, as he takes a completely different approach to how he usually goes about things. Instead of using brute force, he decides to set up a diversion for the team so he can impersonate a plumber and take the prototype more casually. It's not a Vilgax type move and really shows his intelligence on display despite the little time we spend with the real Vilgax. Half of the third act takes place on this plumber tarmac. Ben and Gwen's powers are limited because the environment and the space they're in is very small and compact, with buildings surrounding it, so they can't do what they did on Primus or they'll risk destroying the whole town. On this ship, Tetrax and the others return to, you may be able to spot some visuals of the Ultimatrix on one of the red screens on the ship, showing them analyzing the Ultimatrix prior to arriving on Primus. This was a very cool moment, as we were able to do a villain reveal for what can be considered one of Ben's most powerful ultimate forms shown, and the audience at this point probably thinks everyone here is screwed, but unfortunately for Ultimate Echo fans, we pull a fake out and had them killed from behind before they even had a chance to use their powers. Now the Galactic Enforcers return, as they are fully capable of helping Tetrax when they're not on Sonorosia, where the Galactic Code of Conduct prevents them. This joke right here serves as both a funny moment and an acknowledgement that we're bringing together so many characters who have canonically never met before. The final battle may be smaller in scale from the clash on Primus, but puts more focus on things like Ben going hand to hand with Vilgax here. Ben is the aggressor, as he has a lot of pent-up hate for Vilgax, while Vilgax is on the defense. Opposed to the usual hyper-aggressive Vilgax, he remains on the back foot and picks his shots. Ben shows some skill as he puts up a guard and dodges an oncoming hit from Vilgax and tries to counter with a right hand, which Vilgax blocks. This sets up the ultimate way they stop Vilgax, which is through Gwen's mind link. They never actually stop Vilgax physically in this movie, so they ultimately attack his mind, which is probably the best way to beat someone like Vilgax. Now we see Vilgax's combat intelligence on display as steps back from this oncoming attack and counters with an uppercut to put Ben down, showing again how Vilgax is picking his shots in this exchange. Ben also doesn't jump from alien to alien, as the Omnitrix was only recently repaired, so he can't just jump from alien to alien so casually and put strain on himself. This is just a display of his raw strength as he catches the plumber jet and throws it with ease, which causes 10 times more destruction. It's brief but makes the difference to the audience. Here Vilgax also realizes buildings around them and the people around them and tries to mess with Ben by targeting them. But before he can, Gwen comes and has a pretty cool standoff with Vilgax's heat vision. The fact that he still has heat vision is due to him genetically altering his body after having it repaired. Again, I love the fact that we had these different characters crossover for the first time. They don't interact much, but the teamwork between Manny and the Enforcers, shown briefly here, was a nice addition to everything here. For the first time in present day, we finally see Vilgax's full face revealed, showing that he still maintains a lot of the scars he received all that time ago, and we even see that some of his tentacles have been severed like shown in those flashbacks. Here he reiterates his speech from earlier, but in a new light, as we see him talking through a microphone in his mask, which he used to talk through the droid, and this also shows Vilgax's change in strategy, as he was now simply able to walk through the plumbers instead of forcefully obtaining the Mechamorph. For the little time he appeared, I love the rendition of Swampfire and was actually mainly added because the voice actor contacted me for the role before I even considered putting him in. He has a slight change in design, mainly on the head where the spikes he usually has on his head have curved back. The main idea behind this was to show growth and evolution, and I also got the idea from the fact that animals' tusks curve inwards as they grow. I think the design really works for this style, and the movie in general. Vilgax has always been a very simple villain, and instead of trying to give him an overly complex and sympathetic motivation, I decided to fully embrace the simplicity of Vilgax. In his race as a whole, as it's how he was taught, and this in turn actually brings out complexity from something seemingly very basic. Ben, here, also refers to Vilgax thinking he used Alien X to alter this universe. How Vilgax knows this is yet to be revealed, as in this timeline the events of Ben recreating the universe with Alien X doesn't happen, but Ben still sees it as he has thought of doing it, but explains that he wouldn't be able to even if he wanted. This small clip not only shows Swampfire's regeneration but also the idea behind his head spikes, explained earlier, as we see them grow out like in his original look and then eventually curve inwards to his new design. The prototype Omnitrix begins to spiral out of control again, very similarly to how it did on Galvan Prime and similarly to Kevin and Vilgax. Ben and Vilgax both engage in a tug-of-war over it as it's hurling energy out from all angles. Here you can see Max wearing protective gloves, which makes him able to pierce through Gwen's force field and help her out. Also, if you didn't notice, Gwen's leg is constantly the point of attack throughout this movie. During the monument battle she gets shot in the leg with an incapacitator, and here her leg is caught under rubble. This standoff between Ben and Vilgax mirrors Kevin and Vilgax on Primus, except he has Swampfire who can regenerate from some of the damage as well as people to actually help him. I love this short shot as it was actually made in reference to the actual poster for the movie and overall makes for a cool visual to show the Mechamorph fully merging here. Now we bring back the element of Gwen's mind link to ultimately subdue and defeat Vilgax with the help of Grandpa. This wraps up many of the elements set up pretty well, as it shows how under these conditions Ben wouldn't have stopped him without Gwen. It shows Grandpa Max finally breaking down the walls between him and Ben and coming to help, and it overall enforces the fact that they need each other. And again this mirrors that flashback on Primus, except now things turn out in their favor. Ben and Gwen's hug mirrors their first hug near the start of the movie, except this time instead of looking down with insecurity and fear, Ben is looking up with optimism, and of course all those fears aren't gone, but it start to overcoming them in a pivotal moment. And of course it isn't a Ben 10 story without him receiving some sort of upgrade to the Omnitrix. In this case as a result of the prototype Omnitrix fully merging with his Omnitrix, which is kinda poetic in a way that this thing that was used to cause him so much harm before is now permanently linked to him physically.